The 2023 movie season is officially in the books, so here is my ranking of all 21 movies I saw this year. Let's get into it.
All right, let's go.
Nice choice. Baby, doll skill. Don't provoke us or we will go. Every romance shakes and it bends. Don't give a damn.
Shia. What is going on, everybody? It is I, yours truly, the Ace, here with my rankings to all the movies I've seen in 2023, from the worst to the best. Full disclosure, this is not a full review. In order to see that, go to my movie playlist and check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite movie was of this year. I would love to hear it. I am super excited to get into this list, so let's get into it. Last place, The Marvels. This movie, for a lot of reasons, just didn't do it for me. I was very excited going in. Coming off the Miss Marvel series, big fan of Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, big fan of Monica Rambeau from WandaVision. I thought those two characters would develop very nicely, and adding them with Carol, who I wasn't a big fan of Brie Larson in Miss Marvel, in Captain Marvel, I should say, but I thought that this movie would at least be decent. I was absolutely let down by a bad plot that just seemed like it was fully destroyed by reshoots, terrible CGI, a very, very forgettable villain, and once again, Brie Larson just doesn't do it for me as Captain Marvel, and this is why it definitely goes down as one of the worst movies I've seen. I thought this movie was at its best when it was trying to be Miss Marvel 2, a sequel to that, and it's at its worst when it's trying to be Captain Marvel 2. And it didn't work. Whether it was the singing sequence on the planet that lasted too long, or the cat transportation sequence that was just overdrawn. I do think that this movie could have worked out better as a Disney Plus series, being that it was the shortest running Marvel movie. It felt like it was just missing something, and a better movie was on the cutting room floor. With it being a series, you could have wrote the stronger characters like Kamala, like Monica, like Kamala's family as well, and you could have actually given some development to the Captain Marvel character that a hour and a half movie, 90-minute movie just couldn't touch on. With a series, you could have definitely taken the time to flesh out these characters, and I felt like that would have worked better. It was just a lot of misses in this movie, and I just did not enjoy it, and that's why it goes in last place. At number 20, The Flash. Another movie that is just absolutely terrible. 6 directors over 10 years with a bunch of reshoots just couldn't stop this movie from being a box office bomb, and I was super disappointed, being that The Flash is my favorite DC character. Love Grant Gustin in the TV series. Not a big fan of Ezra Miller in the movies. He's just kind of annoying as Barry Allen, and what they do is, instead of giving us one, they give us twice the annoyingness of Ezra Miller, and it just didn't work. Now, he had all his, off-screen problems that might have contributed to why this movie was bad, but if you take that all away, you don't even think about that, the movie was just bad on so many levels. Absolute terrible CGI, bad writing, not the best acting. This movie definitely is at its best when it's trying to be an homage to Batman. Love the Michael Keaton scenes, but it's just not enough to take your focus away from how bad this movie is. The CGI, especially at the end, was just probably some of the worst CGI that I have ever seen, and the cameos were let down, and it was just, to a movie that DC fans and the directors thought would save a dying universe, this just wasn't it. It was a huge box office bomb, and I was just ultimately so disappointed and let down by the product. I got to see it with my boy on an early screening, and I left really trying to like this movie, and this movie was just one of the worst movies that I definitely saw. And from this point on, the first two movies, The Marvels and The Flash, are the movies that I absolutely didn't like. From this point on, it's movies that I actually enjoyed, and they're just ranked in different orders based on how much I enjoyed them. But I'm glad I got these two out of the way. The Marvels stunk. This one sucked. And hopefully James Gunn restores the DC universe to some sort of glory on what it's doing. But, you know, two big comic book movie letdowns this year, and I was just disappointed. Up next, number 19, Air. A sports drama about the greatest basketball player of all time. Wait, it's not about LeBron? Oh shit, it's about Michael Jordan and the Air Jordans. My fault. But anyways, this was a good, solid movie, directed by Ben Affleck, an award-winning cast. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Viola Davis, Jason Bateman, Chris Tucker, just to name a few. A biopic of the marketing and strategy of Nike to create the Air Jordans that we all know and love today. Side note, these are my favorite Jordans right here that I have on. These shits, fire. But anyways, like I said, a good movie, great cast. Didn't get to see it in theaters, didn't get to do a review on it, but it was just good to see a different side of how they created such an iconic brand that has such an impact on the pop culture community even to this day. In the 18th spot, we have Renfield. When I saw this movie in a trailer going to another movie, I thought it was very, very interesting. A different take on a Dracula film that's just not about Dracula, but his familiar and the toll it takes on his life. And Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, great chemistry. Nicolas Cage was amazing as Dracula. This movie was, you know, at moments very over the top, a lot more gory than I expected it to be. And I was just thoroughly entertained by this. Didn't get to see it in theaters again, but, you know, I'm glad that I watched it, and I wish I would have saw it in theaters. But I just had a good time watching it. And it was overall a very solid movie. Dropping in at 17, we have Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This movie will forever hold a special place in my heart on the Ace Avenue because it was my very first movie review.
Flashback.
This weekend, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves officially hits theaters. Dungeons & Dragons, a fantasy adventure comedy based on the fantasy role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons. Obviously.
End of flashback.
I don't think I'm ever not rocking a beard again. But I digress. As my past, more robotic version of myself was saying, Dungeons & Dragons, a fantasy adventure comedy based around the board game Dungeons & Dragons. Obviously. And I enjoyed it. As someone who was never a fan or ever even played a single minute of Dungeons & Dragons D&D, the only time I actually really knew Dungeons & Dragons was from Big Bang Theory. I went in with no expectations and absolutely enjoyed this movie. It was a great cast, decent CGI, a good story. It was fun, funny, adventurous, and it was a good time. And like I said, it will hold a special place in my heart forever because it was the first review and I haven't watched it again. But I think after this I will, because I did enjoy it when I watched it. And if they made a second one, I'd go watch that one because I enjoyed this one so much. 16, The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That title is a mouthful, but I enjoyed this movie. As someone who loves The Hunger Games, didn't get a chance to do a review or a ranking for it, but if I had to, I would put it right in the middle, probably better than The Mockingjays Part 1 and 2, right behind the first Hunger Games, and then behind Catching Fire, which is universally the best Hunger Game movie. This movie does a good job at making us feel for a guy that puts the dick in dictator, a guy that we know is going to be a tremendous douchebag, and we follow his story, and we're kind of rooting for him along the way. Great performances as well. Tom Blyth, or Blythe, however you pronounce his name, did a great job of portraying a younger version of Snow. And as the movie goes on, we truly see the things that go into his character that make him become that tyrannical villain that we know throughout the rest of the Hunger Games. There are moments that you feel for him throughout this movie. And then there are moments where you see the pieces in place and you're like, wow, this guy is going to be a problem in the future. And the way it was set up was just very well done. Also, other great performances by Rachel Ziegler. They did a good job at differentiating her from the Katniss character. Whenever I was looking at her, I did not think of Jennifer Lawrence. She did such a great job. Great voice as well. Viola Davis was amazing. Very over the top. I felt like she finally got a chance to be like very, very like extra. And it worked in this movie. Another thing that I liked in this movie was we got to see a version of the Capitol that we didn't really get to see throughout the first couple of Hunger Game movies. And it was just good how they touched on that. So everything combined in it made this a really solid movie that I would put right in the middle of all 5 Hunger Game movies. 15, Transformers Rise of the Beast. Best Transformer movie, period. I love the Transformers movies. Love the Michael Bay ones, 1, 2, and 3. The other ones outside of Bumblebee, not so much. But this movie does the Transformer series justice. It stays away from just the spectacle, the explosions, the huge robots, you know what I'm saying, fights, stuff like that. And it adds plot, heart, and a good storyline that I felt was lacking from the Michael Bay movies. The Michael Bay movies just relied on, you know what I'm saying, typical Michael Bay fashion, the big spectacle. This movie has that, but it doesn't just rely on that. And it tells a solid story based around, you know, the Autobots and the Maximals. I was a huge fan of Beast Wars. I'm glad they were able to finally include that. And I'm actually excited for what the future holds from this series after the G.I. Joe, which a lot of people didn't know that they collabed a lot in on the Saturday morning cartoons. I'm glad that they're incorporating that, and I can't wait to see what they do going forward with this. If it's anything like this movie, I think I'll enjoy them. In 14th place, we have Godzilla -1. As someone who is absolutely by no stretch of the imagination a Godzilla fan at all, I surprisingly enjoyed this movie. Unlike the other Godzilla movies that we've gotten in the MonsterVerse that choose to just focus around the destruction, like the monsters are there, but then they pan away from the destruction and they follow the humans running around in destruction, and it's really no plot. This is the complete 180 of this. A great plot based around a kamikaze pilot. His life is going on. They choose to tell a story through him. And then, by the way, Godzilla's also there as well, moving the plot along. And it's great storytelling, phenomenal acting. The CGI was okay. At some points, Godzilla looks a little bit fake-ish, I want to say, you know what I'm saying? But that's to be expected considering this didn't have a big budget to work with. But some studios should take notes because, like, you can do something as successful as this, which is a lot of people, you know, especially that are fans of Godzilla, consider this movie a success. You can do that with a lower budget. But like I said, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. I'm not a fan of Godzilla at all. I think that the other movies suck. But this one was refreshing, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'd watch it again. It's slow in certain parts, but like I said, strong plot, great character development, and it's something that I personally would not have expected from a Godzilla movie. Spot number 13 goes to Creed 3. All right, back in March, I kind of gave a first review to this movie on my Facebook as a sneak peek to the Ace Avenue, and it actually garnered a lot of attention. A lot of people hit me up saying how much they liked the review, and I was kind of like, hey, because I got a channel coming up. So, you know what I'm saying? This is why this movie, too, will hold a special place on my heart. As someone who enjoys the Rocky franchise and is a huge fan of the Creed movies, I love Adonis as a character. This movie it just wasn't the other two. And I kind of felt like it had good moments. Like Jonathan Majors' acting was phenomenal. This is when he first came on the scene. How they took inspiration from anime. You can see that. Michael B. Jordan's directing was fine. But I just felt like this movie didn't have to be made, especially with how they concluded Donnie's arc in Creed 2 with him fighting Drago. I felt like if they would have ended it there, it would have been a complete saga. And I felt like this was kind of, I don't want to say cash grab, but they're kind of milking this franchise, and now they'll be dropping more movies. But where this movie lacked was Michael B. Jordan's acting was not good in this movie. He was very emotionless, especially in times that called for it. The plot was okay, to say the least. Something felt like it was missing all throughout this movie. And that something was definitely Sylvester Stallone. He was such a cornerstone to this franchise, so to not even have him involved in it, it really feels like something is missing. And I hope that if they decide to do it, that he is included. You know what I'm saying? There were a couple of off-camera issues that, they had. But I do hope that he's in it because these movies need him in it. Not saying it would have made or broke it either way, but it just felt like there was something incomplete about this movie. And like I said, I just didn't feel like this movie needed to be made. Especially if Sylvester Stallone wasn't going to be in it. You didn't need to make it because Donnie's arc, in my opinion, was already complete. I get it. Jonathan Majors, despite all the off-camera stuff he's going through, was kind of on the rise, and he does a great job in this movie. Also, the soundtrack was really fire as well. The montage was great, the soundtrack, the Adonis track by J. Cole's fire, But overall, like I said, I thought this movie was just okay. The worst of the Creed movies, in my opinion. And I'll say it once again, I just didn't think this movie needed to be made. Number 12, AntMan and the Wasp, Quantumanium. Where do I begin with this movie? Good moments, great casting, but still very, very flawed. Jonathan Majors, in his movie debut as Kang, he was supposed to be the new big bad of the MCU. Obviously, due to recent events, that's no longer going to be the case. But in this movie, he was one of the bright spots in this movie, along with Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. One of the stronger characters in the MCU. Where this movie fails is the plot isn't the best. The CGI is okay. I just feel like Ant-Man works better, no pun intended, on a smaller scale. A more contained story. Ant-Man 1, great. Had a self-contained story. Ant-Man 2, along the same lines. This one, they tried to use this movie to expand the universe and introduce the newest big bad, and it just didn't work from that standpoint. And Kang was obviously dispatched way too early, which we won't know going forward what's going to end up happening with him, obviously, due to what's going on with Jonathan Majors. But it had moments that, that I thought was decent. One of the lower rated Marvel movies, and it didn't start off good for Marvel this year, and it just didn't work. The anticipation was there, but it was just a tremendous letdown. I wanted to like this movie way more than what I did, being that, trying to give Marvel the benefit of the doubt. But it was just, this movie is just very, very flawed, not very rewatchable, and it will probably go down as one of the more forgettable Marvel movies. You know what I'm saying? Which is a shame because, like I said, Rudd and Majors were good together. And, you know what I'm saying? There were some good aspects, but it's just not enough to sustain the bad in this movie. Next up, in 11th place, we have Blue Beetle. This movie was very solid. It doesn't do anything to reinvent the superhero genre, and it's not trying to. It stays in its lane and kind of gives us aspects of superhero movies that we've seen before and incorporates it in this story. Jolo Maridueña, amazing. Love him as Miguel from Cobra Kai. Can't wait for that series to come back out. And it was a solid story. Me being Hispanic, I felt the message with him and his family being at the forefront. I do wish they would have gave us more of a generic Blue Beetle type story, but it worked. Special effects were good. Story was solid. Like I say, this was probably the lowest DCEU film, which it shouldn't have. More people should have went out and saw it. It was a good time. It was fun. Definitely rewatchable. Had a good time watching it. Can't wait to see what they do with this character going forward. I'm in on him. I'm in on Blue Beetle. Jolo's the man. And yeah, this movie was very good. Bringing us into the top 10, we have Megan. Full disclosure, I almost forgot about this movie. And I really enjoyed it. It's just that it came out in January. And with this summer that we've had of movies, it's easy to forget this came out in 2023. But this is a very solid movie. Killer doll with artificial intelligence. I am a huge fan of Chucky. So this movie is right up my alley. And for anybody that likes that, you'll enjoy this as well. It was a craze for a while. I remember a lot of people were, talking about this on social media. It was solid. Great chemistry between, the Megan, the person, I should say, that's playing the, doll of Megan and the little girl. That dynamic was good. The little girl's acting was also very well done. And it wasn't too over the top, wasn't too gory. It was a very believable storyline. And they're going to push forward with more of these movies. It was very it's very entertaining. And I was entertained watching this movie. And I actually rewatched it again a couple months ago. And I was like, okay, yeah, this movie is good and it belongs in the top 10. In ninth place, Pixar's Elementals. I just got done rewatching this at a friend's house. And every time I watch it, I think this might be one of my favorite Pixar movies. A rom-com where a fire gal and a water guy fall in love despite their differences. Kind of a Romeo and Juliet syndrome as well, with a lot of underlying issues that they tackle. Immigration, racism, and they overcome this with great animation, great storytelling, a good soundtrack. I've actually added Steal the Show to my regular playlist. That song is absolutely, no pun intended, fire. But this is just a overall good movie. My friends just, absolutely love this movie, watching it as well. And like I said, I'm not going to say it's one of the best Pixar movies, but it definitely goes down as my favorite. Very rewatchable. Just a good, heartfelt time that I feel like everybody will enjoy. And this movie didn't get a lot of love in theaters. You know what I'm saying? Kind of due to, I think it was like bad marketing as well. But, hopefully they come out with more of these because I enjoyed this franchise. Like I said, one of my favorites. Falling into number 8, Trolls Band Together. DreamWorks does it again with a movie that's tailor-made for the millennials. If you grew up in that boy band era like myself, you will love this movie. I was a big fan of boy bands, not gonna lie. NSYNC, 112, Backstreet Boys, Boyz II Men, Jagged Edge, the list goes on. And watching this movie definitely took you back with the hits. A little something that everybody can enjoy, that the kids will enjoy the animation, the jokes, and the music will be something that the older generation, like myself, can thoroughly enjoy. It definitely gets you moving. A good, strong plot. Justin Timberlake, Anna Kendrick, once again, are perfect as Branch and Poppy, along with great additions to the cast. Camila Cabello, Kid Cudi, Eric Andre, all did a phenomenal job in their roles. And it's a pretty lighthearted, fun, easy, digestible story, like I said, that everybody will enjoy. I took my niece to see it, and she absolutely loved this movie. Has all the songs memorized. I cannot wait until it drops on streaming services so her and I can jam out to some Trolls. Swimming in at number 7, The Little Mermaid. This is another movie that I will hold near and dear to my heart. My niece's very first movie. It was fitting I took her to this one. She absolutely loved it. So did I. So did the family. Halle Bailey knocks it out of the park with a phenomenal performance. Great vocal work. That girl can absolutely sing. Good job with her acting as well. How she's able to emote through most of the movie due to her actually losing her voice. Great casting with her. and Melissa McCartney as Ursula. I can't think of anybody else who could have played those two roles better. I feel like this is actually one of the better Disney live action adaptations and a must watch for everybody, in my opinion. At number 6, we have the Super Mario Brothers movie. This movie is amazing. Just got done rewatching it. Very rewatchable. A perfect embodiment of what a Super Mario Brothers should be. This movie captures everything that is in the Nintendo lore, from the animation to the different stages to the different places that it takes us, to the different characters, to the soundtrack. Everything is on point. Like I said, I was a little bit nervous about watching this because, like I say, the video game adaptations don't usually translate well to the big screen, but this one does. It is one of the best movies that came out this year. Like I said, when I first made my review, I wasn't too sold on Chris Pratt's voice acting, but as I got to rewatch it, it doesn't bother me as much. Charlie Day was amazing. I still think I wish we had more time with Charlie Day and Chris Pratt as well on screen together, because their chemistry was amazing. But this movie just hit on every cylinder, like the power-ups, Donkey Kong as well, Rainbow Road, everything that you could expect from a Mario fan. As a Mario fan, I should say, is in this movie. It did not disappoint. At the end, with the little Yoshi Easter egg, literally an egg. I can't wait to see what they do going forward with this movie. The NCU, the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, kicks off with this movie, and I hope they just expand it. Give us a Star Fox movie now because of how good this movie is, please. And let it lead up to a Super Smash Brothers movie. That would be absolutely epic. But this Mario movie should definitely be on the top of everyone's 2023 list. Rounding out the top 5, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. A fresh take on the Heroes in a Half Shell that all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans should enjoy, from the animation to the voice acting. Like I said, who would have thought that putting teenagers in the role of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would work out so well? Apparently, Seth Rogen did. Like I said, I was a little bit nervous when he was one of the main producers. Like I said, I didn't want this to be like a stoner flick, but this movie exceeded my expectations and more. Great storytelling where we got to dive into a different aspect of the heroes that we know so well. And it just worked out perfectly. The brother dynamic is there. The father-son dynamic is there as well. And to be able to see every mutant that we love and we know on the big screen absolutely worked. The fight scenes were good. The soundtrack was better. Great soundtrack. Great. Love the scene. Love the montage scene where the soundtrack is playing and the animation is just on point. And this was such a good movie. And I can't wait. And I really can't wait to see what they do going forward with this. Obviously, Shredder. Can't wait to see what they do with that. I'm all for making. I know they're coming out with a series for this, and I'm all for it. Every aspect of the Heroes in the Half Shell, I'm with it. Let's get it. Turtle power. In 4th place, gotta give it to Barbie. This movie is really good. It's a fun, colorful, energetic movie. I said that in my review, and I meant it. Greta Gerwig does a great job at bringing Barbie to life, from the colorful set pieces to all of Barbie's accessories. You do feel like you are really engulfed in the Barbie universe. And Margot Robbie does a great job along with Ryan Gosling. Great chemistry together, with a lot of good, strong, underlining issues that they tackle. And this movie was deeper than I expected it to be, and it worked. Is it for kids? Some scenes might not be. It might be a little bit too intelligent for kids with the vocabulary it tends to use, but it's a fun movie that everybody did enjoy. And let's face it, it was a craze. Barbenheimer was all over the place. I went and saw both movies the same day, had a great time watching it, And, the social media buzz definitely led to this being a box office success. And shout outs to, like I said, Greta Gerwig for doing such a great job at this movie, and is definitely one of the best ones and deserves to be top 5 on my list. Coming in at number 3, we have Oppenheimer. I feel like I wouldn't be doing social media justice if I didn't put these movies next to each other. Gotta complete the Barbenheimer box office duo that took the world by storm. This movie, a biopic of the father of the atomic bomb, was really, really good. Very dialogue heavy. It doesn't focus solely on the atomic bomb, but yet gives us a great acting performance by Cillian Murphy as he is Robert Oppenheimer, and we see the ups and downs of his life and the toll that it took on a man that created something that has the ability to destroy us all. And great casting. Like I said, it was captured perfectly by him. Christopher Nolan, once again, was on his A game when he made this movie. The way he's able to tell 2 different stories from the black and white to the color. A great cast. Robert Downey Jr., he's not just Iron Man. People tend to forget that he could just pull out a great acting performance, and he does it in this one. A star-studded cast, an award-winning movie. This movie was really, really good. I've only got to watch it the one time in IMAX, but I was, no pun intended, blown away by it at how good it was. And the sequence with the atomic bomb, the Trinity test, was epic to say the least. How he was able to build the suspense from that scene, and the score was amazing. And then as the bomb goes off, it's all in silent, and then it just hits you in IMAX. Like, I just remember everybody, because I sat all the way in the back and I'm watching everybody. Everybody's on the edge of their seat. And that's what this movie does. It puts you on the edge of your seat. Like I said, it is very dialogue heavy. So if you don't like that, this movie might not be for you. But this is the type of movie that might go down as one of the best Christopher Nolan movies, and definitely deserves that number 3 spot. Before I give you my top 2, I want to take this time to thank every single member. Thank you guys for your support. You guys are the best. And our runner-up goes to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Wow, this one was a tough one. This could easily be number 1, and it's so close. Across the Spider-Verse, a masterpiece in animation, continues the story of my boy, Miles Morales. This movie just hit on everything. But I think what doesn't make it number 1 is that it is an incomplete story. I know some of you aren't going to agree with that, but this is just my list. Let me know yours. But like I said, a masterpiece in animation, how it uses the animation to tell the story in the background. Like, look at that piece right there. That's one of the best scenes. Definitely want to get that on a poster. Great storytelling, great pacing. To see every single Spider-Man, how it tied in the canon events to why things happen to Spider-Man. And this is just such a great setup to what I think is going to be an epic conclusion to the Spider-Verse series. I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like, this movie, like I said, just hits on everything. If it wasn't for what will be number 1, then this could easily be number 1. Just a great contribution to the story of Spider-Man. It just continues to show why Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. Got to touch more on Gwen as well. Her arc, which was phenomenal. I can't wait to see, like I said, Beyond the Spider-Verse. This could have easily been number 1. And I know it is number 1 on a lot of people's list. But due to what is next, like I said, this one will finish as the runner-up. The moment you've all been waiting for in the top spot, number 1, gotta give it to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. James Gunn's epic conclusion to one of the best Marvel series, no doubt about it. not even debatable. This series from start to finish has been a masterpiece from James Gunn, and this movie was the perfect closure to these characters that came out of nowhere. James Gunn took Guardians of the Galaxy, D-list superheroes, and made them household names with 3 great movies. And this movie, like I said, is a epic conclusion, because not only is this movie great, it makes the other 2 that much better, considering what goes on in this movie. Every arc comes to a great conclusion. Star-Lord, Rocket, the Rocket backstory is so heart-wrenching, and it makes him one of the best characters in the MCU. The Star-Lord and Gamora storyline, I like how they didn't force them together at the end, how it'll be better for Peter Quill's character going forward. Drax, how he was a father the entire time. You know what I'm saying? Nebula and Mantis also had great stories as well. Soundtrack was amazing. One of the best fight scenes in the MCU. The problem with the MCU fight scenes, too many cut scenes. James Gunn said, take this one with that hallway fight scene, the No Sleep Till Brooklyn. One of the best MCU fight scenes, hands down. Like I say, the arcs come to a great conclusion, a satisfying conclusion. And this movie is a 10 to me. Very rewatchable. One of the best MCU movies. And like I said, Guardians of the Galaxy, the series, when I do my series ranking, it is definitely one of the best MCU series as well. Meaning, 3 movies. But this movie just hit on everything. It was emotional. It was funny. It was action-packed. It was dramatic. You know what I'm saying? Had a good villain. Not one of the best as far as overall, but as far as from an evil standpoint, yes. High evolutionary, pure evil. Like I said, the Rocket backstory was just so emotional. And this movie, to me, easily deserves to be number 1, numero uno. Like I said, I would love to hear what your list is. But to me, this, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the epic conclusion to these misfits that we know, this merry band of misfits, comes to a close in a grand way. Salute to James Gunn. Good luck to you in the DC universe, but you did the damn thing with this movie, and that's why it is my favorite of 2023. But appreciate you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait to see what 2024 has for us in store in the cinema department, and I will be covering them. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Ring a ding ding that bell so you'll get more content just like this. Appreciate you guys. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Ace Avenue. I am yours truly, the Ace. Adios.